I was recently reading an article comparing the Black Lives Matter protest with the Occupy Wall Street movement of 10 years ago. And in that article, I ran across the name of Guy Fawkes, and it referred to him as an English folk hero. Made me pause and think a moment. Yes, he was English. He was born English, although he spent most of his adult life as a mercenary on the continent, fighting for various Catholic kings. He even changed his name to Guido. But he did return to England in 1605, and with 12 co-conspirators, planned to blow up the House of Lords and King James I. It was called the Gunpowder Plot, and the conspirators had taken and planted barrels of gunpowder in a storage room underneath the House of Lords. And then Fawkes was entrusted to set off the charges. But an anonymous letter to the authorities alerted them to the plot, and he was captured before he was able to execute his duty. He was to be tortured in order to find the names of the co-conspirators. Why, it started off as mild forms of torture and most likely progressed to the rack. But the first round of torture, he gave up his false name that he had been using while in England of John Johnson and admitted his name was Guy Fawkes. He also, in the second round, admitted to his involvement and his desire to blow up Parliament and send King James to the Netherlands down there. And in the third round, why, out came all the names of the co-conspirators. And as was the custom, not just the custom, but the law in those days for treason, which he was accused of and found guilty, along with all the other conspirators, yes, it was to be drawn, hung, and quartered. Now, for the uninitiated, to be drawn was to be bound to a wooden, like a gate, and dragged by a horse through the streets to the gallows, where the person was hung, but not till dead. And then they were emasculated, disemboweled, chopped into 4 pieces, and those 4 pieces were then displayed in various portions of London, most prominently on the London Bridge. And so the day came for his execution along with 2 other of the co-conspirators, and they were marched to the gallows. Well, they were dragged to the gallows on the hurdle. And Guy Fawkes was standing by watching as the other 2 were drawn and quartered. And then it was his turn. He climbed the ladder up to the gallows and he fell and broke his neck. Well, he was still drawn and hung, and he was quartered as well, but he just didn't have to feel the pain. And so, King James was so delighted of having uncovered this plot and saved the monarchy, the Protestant monarchy, that he decided there should be a bonfire night in celebration. So November 5th was to be celebrated with bonfires and festivities. And it was made a law. And it was on the books until the mid-1850s. as a national holiday, bonfire night, sometimes called Guy Fawkes night. And this was traditionally celebrated with the construction, usually by children, the construction of an effigy, stuffed with rags and straw, with a mask, and they would carry that effigy through the streets on a chair days before, collecting money for the fireworks. I can remember in the mid-1980s of being asked a penny for the guy. Well, they were really looking more for a pound for those fireworks. During the 1980s, Charles Lloyd created a graphic novel called V for Vendetta. And in that, he popularized Guy Fawkes, and the visage that he created became the basis for the Guy Fawkes mask that has been used by anti-government and anarchist groups in demonstrations. And it's also popularized in the film by the same title. The ironic part of that is that the trademark for DC Comics is held by Warner Media. Warner Media is owned by, AT&T, one of the very companies that the protesters have been targeting. And so, Guy Fawkes, not really a hero, but a legacy in a mask.